Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Build Your Copywriting Business podcast. Hello, ladies.
Hello, hello.
Hi.
Hello. As always, I am joined by my super special co-star and co-host, Kate Sajars.
Super special. Hello.
Hello. Kate and I have the pleasure today of being joined by a super special CCA student and copywriter extraordinaire, Kelly Calvanico. Hey, Kelly.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Oh, we are so excited to have you here. So excited. Let's dig in. So I think probably the best place to start is just how did you get into copywriting, Kelly? What interested you in it to begin with?
So I actually was probably doing copywriting for a lot of years before I came to CCA, but I didn't even know it. I'm a lawyer by training, and after a few years of that, I was not happy with my job and ended up going in-house to a university in their fundraising department. And I was running a whole program, and probably 50% of my job was marketing that program. And at a nonprofit, of course, that means you're doing a lot of the writing as well. So I had been doing it for years and years. I just didn't have a label for it.
That is not uncommon, certainly. And especially when you're the good writer in the department, everyone goes, well, just Kelly, you did such a great job with this last time. Can you do this again this time? And in a nonprofit,
that's exactly how it happened. That's exactly. I was brought on an annual report, and I edited it for the person who had initially written it. And the following year, when it was time to do the annual report, they came to me and said, why don't you just write it this time? And so the rest is history, I guess.
The rest is history. Absolutely. So how did you decide to make the decision to become a copywriter?
So I actually was grappling around with what I wanted to do when I grew up for a little while, the pandemic and all that. And I had been in the process of trying to decide if I wanted to go into writing again. I had done it before, both in-house, and then I had my own consulting firm for a while and did it before the pandemic. So I was trying to decide if I wanted to go into diversity, equity, and inclusion work, more in a HR setting, or if I wanted to write about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And at some point in time, your social media post popped up it got on my radar, and it kind of steered me in that direction. And I haven't looked back. So,
yeah, what made you want to join, knowing that obviously you didn't know that it was what you were doing was copywriting necessarily, but you were writing, you had done it before. So I'm just curious, especially for people who think, well, I'm a good writer. Why would I need to take a course? Why would I need a program? What made you pursue that?
Well, I knew I wanted to go out on my own and start my own business. And I really wanted the discipline behind a course that would give me homework assignments. And CCA really ended up being really the best fit for me. I was still working a full-time job, so I was taking on the course, and it comes in these nice little bite-sized pieces of information. And I'll just, compliment you that my job before I did this, I was running an adult education program. So I'm very knowledgeable and aware about how adults learn. And I think your program is very well designed to check all the boxes with that regard. It was absolutely the perfect course for me. And it wasn't something that was below my level. It gave such great structure. There are still things from your course that kind of ring in my head every once in a while. I'm like, well, Nikki said this. So, and you're right. And you're absolutely right about those things. So great course. Can't recommend it enough.
Well, thank you.
Some of the things that I think are great for adult learners is the fact that you have those hands-on projects. Adult learners don't learn unless they actually do. There's something that changes in our brain around the age of between 18 and 24, depending if you're male or female. And it's harder for us to just read and learn after that point, especially for something where it's a large amount of information. We can retain small bites, but we can't really retain large ones unless we actually apply the learning. And so your course does just that with all the, I can't remember the name of the exercises anymore, but they're fantastic and very true to the real world, I think.
Well, good. I'm so glad you found it valuable.
Yeah.
But speaking of the real world, how did you then move from learning into clients, and how did that shake out for you?
Well, of course, part of the course is that I had to update my LinkedIn page and Facebook page with announcing to the world that I was doing something different. And pretty much as soon as I put that out, because I had worked with people in the past and I had a lot of connections in the nonprofit world, which is largely where my work has come from, people started reaching out to me. Oh my gosh, we need a writer. I think one of the things that you say over and over again in the course, and I don't know that people believe it until they are back out in the real world, there is so much writing work out there for people. I have not met a person that doesn't say that I need a writer and I haven't known where to find one. There's such demand. Even with AI coming into the picture, there's still just massive amounts of demand for writers. So yeah, so I haven't been quiet since then.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
So you have been just booked solid since you put yourself out into the world.
Yeah. I think I had one slowish week around Christmas time for which I was grateful. Because clients themselves had slowed down a little bit. But thankfully I was on retainer with those clients, so it didn't impact my income. And
do we need to have a vacation intervention for you? I feel
well, that is why I joined the Nikki's second class.
Yes.
It's because I want to pivot my business a little bit and focus a little bit more on gaining exactly the clients that I want for me.
Yeah.
And the ones that are going to give me that breathing space to be able to take vacations. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
So now what kinds of projects do you get to work on?
I have worked on such varied stuff. So I've been on retainer with a firm that does marketing to trade associations. And that was a lot of sales funnel work. I did a lot of video work for them as well, video scripting, and a lot of web copy for them. So that was for them. But I also do a lot of work with, it's a public affairs, political activism group. And I tend to get drawn in on projects that are a little more copywriting versus public affairs, but I do the public affairs work as well. So I've been learning that, which is very similar principles in terms of what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
So that, a lot of press or news releases, I guess we call them now, because they're going out on different media other than just the printed press. Right now I'm doing some fundraising brochure copy for a client for the Democratic National Convention coming up.
It's not a small client, all right?
No,
that's incredible.
I've had some great clients. And then I've tried to nudge my way a little bit into the consumer product goods space. And I've picked up some work there also through agency. I've mostly done stuff through agencies. I have a couple of direct not-for-profit clients as well, but a lot of agency work, which is really fun because you have a team of really smart people surrounding you. I love all the collaboration that comes through that. When you're working one-on-one with a client, of course, you're often the most knowledgeable person in the room about what you're doing. But it's nice to have somebody that's smarter than you in the room every once in a while to bounce ideas off of and to just come up with something new and novel, and then you can run with it. So it's nice to have a mix. It's good to have a mix like that.
Yeah. And it can be nice to have a team to work with when you work from home and you're used to being you and your computer. And I know that your husband has his own business and he works from home too. So you could see him, but you can kind of get into a silo where days go by where you don't see other people. So it can really be fun to interact with groups in that way.
Yeah. And my days kind of break out like that. I try and, if I can, you can't always plan it this way, I try and have writing days or work days when I am at home. Like towards the tail end of this week, I'm running a retreat for a client. So that'll be offsite. And then I have another client that likes me to pop up every once in a while. So I'm gonna pop into the office on Wednesday and Thursday with them. So
go into an office, how retro.
Wow.
It is weird. And it's an office where they still get dressed up pretty nicely. And so I had to actually go out and buy some new clothes.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
It's never a bad thing. But.
Yeah, right.
I have a tote of pants where I'm like, it's been 10 years plus at this point. Like, will I ever wear it? Will I fit in these? I don't know, but I'm holding on to them just in case.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. You hinted at this too earlier. Speaking of agencies, I know Kelly is a CCA Next Level member. There are courses on building an agency and kind of, as the name says, taking your business to the next level. Are you toying with the idea still of building an agency, or is it comfortable as you feel sharing? I feel like I'm outing your plans to the world.
No, I am. I've grappled with that. When you reach the point where you actually have to turn away prospective clients because you don't have any more bandwidth, you wonder oh gosh, I don't want to do that. How can I make this work? So I'm trying to figure out, you guys are great because you give us all the structure and I don't have to use my brain power on that piece. Everything from do these steps in this order to this is a really handy technology tool that you could bring into your thing to make everything work together. And so I'm getting that. And I think another piece of it that I've shared is I was trying to figure out, do I want to niche down? I know early in your course, you encourage people to try everything. And I've definitely done that in the last 3 years. But now I think I know how I want to niche down. And for a while, when I started the next level course, I didn't know, oh, is that just going to mean I'm in a niche based on activity? Like I could say, I'm just going to do websites and annual reports and brochure, whatever selection of marketing tools I decided to pick, was I going to niche down into a particular area? But what I think I'm going to focus on, as noted, I had a lot of experience with not-for-profit clients, and I've worked for nonprofits my whole career. So I'm definitely someone who is cause-driven, and I want to change the world through my work. But I've been attractive to, and I've been drawn to for-profit clients that want their DEI and ESG pages written. And it's something that I found that people are not very good at writing. There's a lot of it's almost near identical copy out there that doesn't really mean anything about that organization. And so I've had a lot of fun writing those. And those are really fun to turn in because they just sit there like, you get that wow factor. And it's like, well, that's because I really understand your audience. And now you're going to be speaking to your audience with this page. So one of my hopes is actually, to some extent, when I create a page like that I get them thinking not just about how they're communicating their DEI programs and their ESG programs to the world, but also thinking about how are they running those programs? And are they doing the things that are going to be effective to make the change that they are seeking to change? So I know that's the not-for-profit person of me trying to put my imprint on the for-profit world. But they're a group that I've always really enjoyed working with. And I had a lot of experience when I was running that conference program at a law school. I did a lot of work in this area where law met technology. So I worked with a lot of startups and scale-up size organizations. And I just personally get so excited when people are creating anything that is just going to have a huge and lasting impact on the world. I always tell people it's like, you could be involved in some horrible natural disaster and you are going to be equally grateful to the Red Cross for putting a roof over your head and food on your plate as you're going to be to Steve Jobs for inventing that iPhone. They're equally important to the world. So I see myself kind of in that sort of purpose-driven space of groups that want to change the world. So that's my eureka moment since I started the next level class, is that I feel like I have a little bit of focus that I can niche down a little.
Oh, I love it. And what a beautiful perspective. I think sometimes we get so caught up in doing the work or pitching and landing the clients. And I'm just really impressed in you. And yes, sure. Part of it is some of the clients that you have worked with in the past and you work with now, but I don't think that it's natural for a lot of people to say, all right, it's not just this project, but how is this project impacting the organization? How is this organization impacting the world? And how is the work that I'm doing changing things for so many people? And I'm just so impressed that you're thinking in those terms. And I hope that people who are listening and watching will just be inspired to maybe do a little bit more of that themselves, even if they're working for-profit companies and, they're working for the local yoga studio to promote the local yoga studio or whatever. Even if it's something small or something consumer-based, it can have, like you said with the iPhone, it can have such an impact on people's lives and their well-being and all of that. So thank you for offering that perspective.
I'm curious if you have advice, since you have a law background, you worked with nonprofits, you've done a lot in your career. But I think some people, and I've felt this for sure in my own career, so I'm selfishly asking this question, but you do something for so long that you feel like, well, there's no way I can pivot into another career. I've spent this much time, kind of that sunk cost idea. How could I ever switch to something else? So what advice do you have for people who might be curious to make a shift, but feel hesitant to do so, having spent time in other, maybe completely unrelated areas?
Well, by nature, I'm a natural learner. I've worked for 2 universities, and those were just so much fun because I was constantly exposed to learning. But this experience of setting out and starting up my own business and doing it and really being thoughtful about the fact that I want to grow it and evolve it into something bigger has been such an amazing experience for me because it taps into that natural sense of curiosity and just constantly being able to learn something new. Every day there's something new. I feel like I was on autopilot before. When you're in the same career in the same space for so long, I had come into a company where they actually recruited me away from before I was consulting, and that included a decent amount of writing before too. But they recruited me in to run this conference program, and I was only supposed to be there for 3 months. And I was supposed to help recruit my replacement, and we were unable to find a replacement I think I started in December. By December, we still hadn't found anyone in there, and I finally caved and decided to go in-house with them. But I feel like there was probably, I don't know, maybe 3 years of me really causing positive change on the department. They had a marketing program. Oh my gosh, I wish I had a sample of it. I think I tossed them on my move. They had this brochure that was one single piece of paper, and it would kind of unfold, and it would be this wide with some of the conferences because we had 80 speakers. And it was all done, every conference in their series of 30, 40 conferences was done in 2-color with the exact same image on the cover. It was a gavel. And all they would do is change the banner color. That was the second of their 2 colors, because they had the grayscale and they had the 1 color. So I had attendees who would be like, I thought I'd been to that conference before, because it was the 40th year with the same artwork and the same design and the same language, the same description. To be fair, it was a grossly understaffed department that they didn't have money to pay for a designer. So they got one and done, and were trained on how to change out like the year and then, the speaker names every year. But so that was the first thing that I did. And I introduced a new series of brochures with original artwork for each conference and original copy for each conference. And we saw a healthy boost from that. And we made a lot of other changes to the program too, to cut costs and boost attendance. And we were successful. But I feel like a job like that, sometimes you run out your useful life after a certain number of years. And then not only what is there for the organization, since you're not able to bring anything new, they've kind of hit their capacity. But it's also what is there for you, because you're not learning and growing. I mean, fortunately, I was in a job where I was going to conferences every day. So I did get to learn some new things, which kind of held my interest for a number of years. But I've been so happy since I went out on my own. I think Kate, you started by asking me, for people who think that they can't pivot. I think that it was actually probably easier to pivot into this kind of job because I had complete control over the decision to go out and start my company, all of the details of my company. I will say I'm 53 years old. I did, at a certain point I was sending out resumes, those days when you close your office door and you say I'm polishing off my resume, I can't take it anymore. I had some of those days along the way and didn't get much reaction. And I think part of that is there's definitely some ageism out in the job market. But when you go out on your own instead, especially as an older worker, people immediately respect you for all of your years of experience, no matter what field you were in before. I can see it. I have one client where they have their business model. They have a lot of younger account executives, probably late 20s, early 30s, maybe. And they have a decent number of years experience under their belt. They were promoted from whenever up the ranks, but they're still not as comfortable with clients as someone who's been doing it for a lot more years like me. And so I would actually, as the copywriter, I would get called into client meetings all the time where it wasn't necessarily the norm. And I was being invited to do pitches, to be the person that helped them pitch large, super large clients, because they knew that I would be comfortable in the room with people, just having been out in the world. And I don't know, you reach a certain age and you just don't care anymore. You don't worry. You're not embarrassed. You're just going to say what you're going to say, and people can accept it or not. And so you don't have the inhibitions. So I've been put in positions where I've been training younger workers who are managing me. So I definitely encourage people to take a chance and to go out and do something new.
I'm glad you said that, because we definitely hear from people who are considering getting into copywriting and say, I don't know, am I too old for this? Is it past the point where I can make a change? Yeah. Is it too late? And we encourage them, certainly. But I love that you can offer that perspective, because I completely agree that experience from wherever you have been in your career previously is going to benefit you. And when you can write great copy, that's the number one thing that matters. Your age, your background, any of that is I don't want to say irrelevant, but certainly doesn't factor in as much. But I think especially in copywriting, it can be an asset. Whereas I think in what you hear on the news or that kind of thing, people tend to think it's a detriment, and it's very much not the case. Yeah.
I think another thing is, I think very quickly people who go through this program will realize that if they're in a situation, especially if they're approaching organizations that do not have a sophisticated marketing program, that they are, after just your course, they are the smartest people in the room on the subject of copywriting and marketing. And I think they'll just be amazed at how much they did learn. And it's a big confidence booster. You really only need to take 1 or 2 meetings before you're realizing, like, I know this stuff. I can do this. So I would encourage people not to be nervous, about approaching clients for the first time, because you know more than they do.
Mm-hmm.
You just need to kind of straighten up and walk into the room like you know your stuff, and because you do.
Yeah, for all those people who are waiting to hit send on their first pitch, listen to what Kelly just said. You're probably more ready than you think you are. That moment, I feel like, in the CCA when you're like, do I start pitching? Do I not start pitching?
I have a secret there. So,
yes.
I was a fundraiser for a lot of years, and part of I was doing high-end fundraising 1-to-1, and I used my legal background. So it's what's called planned giving. You're asking people to give stuff under their will or trust. But I had to get in front of people. I had to get into people's living rooms, basically. And so that meant it was dial and smile. I would go to cocktail parties or like an alumni event on campus and hopefully start up enough of a conversation to follow up and be able to take them out to lunch. But my secret when I was calling, because I'm one of those halfway introvert, halfway extrovert kind of people. So I had to turn on my extrovert and pick up the phone. And my secret was I would trick myself in my mind. I roughly would get 1 visit per every 11 calls was my batting average. So in my mind, I just had to hit 11 calls. And it wasn't a matter that any of them were going to say no. It was like, I just need to get through these 11. Somebody's going to say yes. Or one person's going to say yes. And sometimes 3 would say, and sometimes none out of that batch of 11. But it just mentally tricks you that you don't have to worry about each individual call saying no. Batch it and say, I'm going to get a couple of no's here, but I'm going to get at least 1 yes out of this.
I love that.
Such a good mindset.
Just hit your numbers. And everything else will work out okay. Yeah.
And it's funny, you get better and better at it. So those first calls, you pick up the phone, you're leaving a voicemail, and there's a little tremor in your voice and you're stumbling over your words. And by the time you get through the 10th voicemail you're leaving, you are so expert at your little spiel, and it started to sound more natural and not rehearsed. You're throwing in those appropriate ums and pauses and that kind of thing. And so you sound like a human. And so I always put the people I really care about reaching maybe around number 10 on the list, warm up with 1 through 9 and get the little bugs out. And by the time you hit them, you're just going to be flying through it. So
absolutely. Well, it's the exact same thing with pitching, right? The more that you do it, the easier it gets and the faster it gets and the more fun it gets.
And discovery calls too, to your point. You're going to get on a discovery call and it'll get more and more natural. I think that first one, everyone's way over prepared, spend an hour, which is great to be over prepared versus under prepared. But it gets so much easier.
Yeah. Yeah. Gems of wisdom. Yeah. And speaking of which, if someone were thinking about getting into copywriting, they said, I like to write. I'm good at it. I always get kind of tapped to do it at my current job. What would you advise them to do?
I would definitely give it a go. I feel like in the group, I hear that story over and over, but it's people from all sorts of different backgrounds. It's former teachers, it's former financial advisors. I mean, just a whole cast of characters, but you hear that all the time. I always tapped into because I'm a decent writer. And so I think that's a sign that you should try this. You may end up pivoting into a different type of writing career. Maybe you're going to be a ghostwriter for a novel someday, but I think a big benefit of at least attempting the copywriting is it gets you writing every single day. So guess what my hobby is? I am trying to write a screenplay. My hobby to writing is writing. And everybody asks me, how can you do that? How can you write all day? Doesn't it exhaust your creativity? And it's actually the opposite. The more volume you do, it's like it shifts you into that side of your brain permanently. And my reason, my why for wanting to reorganize my work, because I mean, who could complain? I have all this work. A lot of it's coming in over the transom. I'm not even making an effort to get it. But I don't have spare time. And I want my spare time back. Among other things, I would like to spend more time with my family, enjoy vacations, holidays, and I want to write my ultimate screenplay that's going to win an Oscar someday. Yeah.
So this is, after we stop recording, we'll have the vacation intervention. I feel like we get you a vacation. Yeah.
I'm trying to plan one for next week. So
good. Exciting.
I need the time to get on Kayak though and do my search. Oh, I shouldn't have mentioned branding.
That's okay. We are not sponsored by them, but Kayak, give us a call. We're open to it.
We all can write for you.
Yes, exactly. Oh, Kelly, this has been phenomenal. Now, if somebody's listening and they're like, oh, Kelly's amazing. I want to hire her to work for our company, to write for our organization. Where can people find you?
My website is kellykilvanicocreatives.com, which is actually, I'm going to be rewriting it though. So there's new great things to come on.
Excellent. We'll give you a deadline too.
I know.
She's like, that's why I'm on the podcast for the deadline.
I thank you for that.
Fantastic. Well, Kelly, this was so much fun to chat with you. We always have fun when we chat. Thank you so much for sharing your story and sharing your lots of wisdom in this one.
Now, what's going to be on your website to come?
What's going to be on my website?
Is this okay?
Well, among other things. So when I threw my website up, little different than some of your other students, and that I had some writing samples. So I use those instead of the, when I did all the exercises, I didn't go out and get a graphic designer just because I had stuff that was professionally designed already. However, some of the stuff is ancient. Like my writing dates back to the day before the internet was really as big a thing as it is. So it's there's a lot of paper-based stuff. And if it's sort of a study in like the history of graphic design, because the styles and the fonts and just the way things are presented has changed so much over the years. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you could pick up you ever pick up collateral from a client and it's like, oh my God, is this from the 60s? I feel like some of my stuff looks like that. So I need to completely update my portfolio. I've been very negligent about following up with clients and securing permissions, and that's on my to-do list. I've also been negligent about securing new testimonials. I did that 3 years ago, but I need to pick up new ones for the range of clients I've had. And like I say, I'm kind of pivoting and niching a little bit. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of things on that website.
Good. Ooh, exciting. Can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
Yay. Well, then when this goes live, everybody check it out because she's going to have stuff on there.
Fabulous new website. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, Kelly, thank you so much for joining us. This was an absolute pleasure.
Well, thank you guys. This has been great. I've been so happy with this program. So
I'm so glad to hear it. Thank you.
Anything to tell more people about it for sure.
Thank you. And with that, we will catch you guys in the next episode. Bye, everybody.
Like what you heard? Hit subscribe so you never miss a video. And if you're ready to take the first step toward becoming a copywriter yourself, sign up for a free video training right here.